it a second.
I hope it's the right stream key.
I'm-
Also, don't stream the stream key. That's the
yeah.
the
No,
big
yeah. They even give me a huge warning. I'm like, I've done this. Oh, God. All right, I just can't hit Alt-Tab, I guess. Because it did this. All right, I think we can work around that, then.
Twitch.
Do you guys see that? Yeah.
I'm looking.
By Alt-Tab, it goes right in the middle.
Oh yeah,
Why,
we're
hello.
definitely live.
Okay, hey, what's going on, guys? This is the Trinity Force podcast. This is episode 330. The Tallanasty here with you guys tonight. We also have Punch.
Punch.
That's your cue.
What? There's too many
Punch
things
made
going
it.
on here.
Punch made it. He's alive.
I'm alive.
And Chira.
Hey, what's up?
And no Pwn, no cereal today. And so we're just going to go in cold, and I'm streaming it today. So there might be a little hiccup here and there, but we're going to try to do the best we can without them.
It's not quite as streamlined as when Adam does it, but it's okay.
Yeah, we don't have the cool intro and the music. So if you want, just go
reminisce.
Yeah,
by listening
reminisce,
to
sing it,
past
sing it out
episodes.
loud and whatnot. Yeah. All right, so we still have a lot of stuff we wanted to cover, including the new champion select and dynamic queue, and what else do we want to hit up, guys?
What else do we have in here?
We
All
could
the
touch on
grave
meta.
stuff.
All the grave stuff? Meta stuff?
Graves.
The grave
being
stuff that makes me
ridiculous at the
sick.
moment. Yep.
Right, see, Pwn has in here, we could talk about Runic Echo's Uter.
That's
That
not
just sounds
happening.
stupid.
We're not talking
He
about
told
Runic
me-
Echoes.
Let's
he
not
told
talk
me
about that.
We're not doing
specifically,
that.
And yeah.
For some reason, he thinks that's a good idea
No.
because he saw Trick 2G do it, and he loves Trick 2G.
Trick
Yeah,
2G
He
can
said, you know what? Trick
go
2G
on
comes
a
with the best strategies to talk about on the podcast, but not me. I'm going to have these guys talk about it.
yeah.
Fuck you, Pwn.
No, he's played enough Udyr. He could build anything on it and stomp silvers and golds
Adam-
and stuff like he
Adam-
does on a Smurf. So I mean,
Adam actually texted me before the show, and he said, "Forget about talking about that today." So it's probably not appropriate that we even brought it up. But whatever.
all right.
Fuck you, Adam, for putting that in the
Hey,
document.
whenever we have a chance to make fun of him, I have to.
Especially
his
when he's
idea.
not here.
So, you guys want to hit up the dynamic queue first and the new champion select? I know it's been out there for a little bit, and then they took it away from us this past weekend when most people would actually be using it, and now it's back, and you're able to queue up with more than one person for doing ranked, and the new champion select's back. I personally, I saw a huge difference. We had the new champion select, and then it went away for a little bit. And then I noticed the toxicity levels in my game went up just about 25%, and then it came back, and now everyone's getting their rolls. So I feel like that's helping a lot with the toxicity, and I'm able to get my roll more often. It's a little bit more fun.
What was your first impressions like going from, because even though I knew they were going to end up releasing dynamic queue, I don't think I was actually ready for its release. It still seemed like it came by surprise the day that they ended up rolling it out, and then when they took it away, it was one of those things like, okay, that was kind of surprising that it was available and then immediately gone.
Yeah, it's
So like I don't know, it's I like and dislike it for multiple reasons, but does anybody else have any immediate thoughts?
It spoiled me.
Yeah,
point
it's like
where-
you got a new favorite toy, and then it got taken
Yeah.
away immediately.
Yeah, and the fact that you can choose your role. I don't know. So I didn't see the main post when they announced that they're going to make a separate queue for solo queue. Does that include choosing your role, or is that just all
It's
what it was
it's
before?
supposed to have the new champion select, but I think it's supposed to be only for solo only, not even duo. And I think that was mostly due to all the salt that was all over Reddit.
Yes.
As far as being surprised by dynamic queue, I played a lot of Heroes of the Storm back when it was in alpha and beta, and they
Right.
had dynamic queue up until shortly after launch, and I actually really liked it. I know even a lot of players in that game complained about it because they would be like, "Oh, I'm the solo player and I'm getting paired with four maids," and it's being. I mean, I think there's a little bit of that. You know, you have some people that are going to be toxic as a four maid, but for the most part, people just remember those more often. And the rest of the games, you probably don't even realize. I've had a lot more fun games in my dynamic queue than I have in the solo queue, and I've been trying to spam games since it come back. 'Cause, I mean, it's a lot of fun. You know, I don't think a lot of people were once again complaining it was like devaluing my solo queue rank. I think it just tests different things. I think dynamic queue, you might be working with a pre-made, you might not. You might be able to queue up with two of your buddies, and and how well you work as a team with people is a huge indicator of a different skill set, but a skill set nonetheless, in my opinion.
Since this is supposed to share the same elo as your solo queue, right? I think I saw that. What I find interesting is, so in regular ranked fives before the season, basically every team I've been a part of, my ranked fives elo or ranking has been a lot lower than my solo queue one.
Right.
I think it's just because it's harder to rank up at ranked fives. It's harder to play more games. It's harder to do that grind. I wonder if how that's going to affect this queue, this new queue, where you've got duos at the very least.
There another piece of that too,
or
is
even solo too.
That
Go ahead.
It isn't just that it's harder to get 5 people on to do games. It's feast or famine when you're looking for games between getting stomps and then getting teams that eventually immediately stomp you too. When you were doing ranked fives, how many times was it like, okay, we crushed this team, team of all diamonds?
Oh yeah, there's a huge skill
disparity
discrepancy above teamwork. That's one thing that doesn't really factor into solo queue. You can have just 5 people playing together. There might be some teams that mesh well better than others, but there's not as huge a discrepancy as there would be in ranked fives. And that same thing is going to exist in dynamic queue. You're queuing up with 5 people against 5 other people. And again, that elo, that ranking is going to be shared with the same games that you play solo. So I wonder if you play solo, you're going to skyrocket, and then you start playing with your teammates and you might drop again. I'm not sure how that'll work. It'll be interesting.
And I think when they do release the actual solo only queue, it's going to start off with the base MMR of whatever you have so far, but then it's going to be its own ranking. So instead of solo duo and ranked fives, they're going to have solo only and dynamic. And the only thing I don't want is I fear, because I've seen this, and I've seen this as a reason why people don't want to lose their solo queues, because they feel like that's the one thing they have to hold on to this is what makes me skillful, is that gold border and solo queue, and I did it all on my own, and people feel like dynamic queue is going to take away from that. I feel like it's just going to test a different skill set, and both are just very, very useful in their own different ways. But that's the one thing I was afraid of, is that if they re-release the solo queue, you're going to lose a lot of that player base. And it's going to split up the queues times, and the queue times are going to get longer, and then you're going to have this pissing match at the end of the season. Maybe, oh well, I got platinum and solo only, so your platinum and dynamic isn't worth as much because you had to get carried there.
Well, and I would also say that it kind of it's a deterrent for people who would be better players necessarily. Like for a diamond player to play with a platinum, or platinum friends, because if they didn't carry, then their rating is affected for it. So that they were playing with people who the discrepancy between plat player, every rank, as you get higher, it's more and more slight, but it's noticeable. When I'm playing with diamonds, okay, I notice the little things that you're doing better than me. I'm not on that level yet. I can go toe to toe. During a lot of situations, you just do everything slightly more efficiently than I do. And now you can queue up with your friends if you want to play with them, but it's also going to affect your rating for wanting to have fun with your friends that might not be as good as you. And I would say that because there's there's just not as many super high ranked people as there are general populous League of Legends players. It makes the pool of people that they can play with if they want to stay competitive and play with their friends that much smaller.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that means way less for me as a plat player, but for an individual at your level or anybody in Diamond 3 or above, it's almost okay, we're good at this game, so we're punished if we want to play with our friends that aren't as good as us.
We just had that problem last night where we were trying to get 5 people together to play dynamic queue, and it turns out that Tallanasty is too high for our mid laner, who was plat last season, but who finished his placements and then placed in gold 1. So I guess he was 1 division off from us being able to play together. We had to jump through some hoops in order to get that working.
I think that's more of a issue with them taking away ranked teams than dynamic queue itself.
Yes,
but,
I agree.
But how many times have you, in the past 4 seasons, for my case 5 seasons going on, been playing ranked with a friend, and then another friend logs on, and you have the choice: do I go play
Play with this
normals
person or
with
somebody
my two friends, or do I just exclude this one person and say sorry, playing ranked? When otherwise they're if they're out around the same level as you, and they are good players, or you like playing seriously with them, and they're not just.
But you could also say that's been the case for the past 5 seasons. If 2 people were playing a game and a third logged on and they wanted to play, you still had to make that choice. Would I rather do solo queue with one person, or would I rather play normals with? I mean, I guess you could do rank 3s, but rank 3s was a fucking madhouse forever. So like that means nothing.
And ranked teams was good in some ways in that you could play with all ELOs of your friends. You could play with a gold, silver.
But again, giant discrepancies between games.
But I guess the reason for taking it away was it wasn't done well. People didn't really use it a whole lot, and when you did play with that type of discrepancy anyway, it didn't lead to very, very good games. When you played with your bronze friends and your platinum, you just got these weird mismatches, and you had some lanes getting stomped, and it just wasn't as fun. But I think that. I mean, I personally like it. I think I'm going to play a lot more solo queue now because I don't have to, necessarily exclude people.
It opens things up.
Yeah, and I'm a very, very competitive person by nature, but I'm also a very social gamer and whatnot. So I don't have to choose anymore. I could have both at the same time. So for me, when I saw they were doing this,
as long as your friends are just, if they're worse than you, are just slightly worse.
And maybe I'm a little spoiled because I've played so long that I've grinded a couple other accounts to level 30, and I have Smurfs I could play on, so I could still play competitively with friends that are lower. Not everyone has that luxury, but at the very same time, I do have a lot of friends that are plat and diamond, and there's been so many cases where I've been doing with someone another person logs on, and I'm like, oh, we're queuing up as 2 already. I'm sorry, dude, and it's just like, oh, well, I could play with this friend now,
That'll been freaking out in chat because he hates the remove ranked 5 so much. He used the captain for my ranked 5s team, and now since that was removed, I have to level a new account in order to play with those guys. Feels bad, man.
That does feel grimy in a way, but at the same time, I don't necessarily see an easy fix for that at all.
It almost felt like,
unless they left the old queue, but I mean, like we were saying earlier, that queue did have problems to it, and they are looking to renovate it. We're not sure what they're going to do yet.
They said they're taking it away for the whole season. They're not going to have it at all this season.
They said they want to bring it back eventually, or bring something back, some sort of.
They wanted to redo it. Yeah. I thought,
and
I thought that's what they were going to do this season, but instead, this entire season, they said that at least that's what I read and what I recall, that they're going to not have anything at all. That they're going to take it away, and when we do bring it back, it's going to be what we want it to be, which I can understand. But they also announced that at the same time that they announced, well, we're going to introduce a solo only queue. So I almost feel like they're like, all right, well, so many people are bitching that they can't do solo queue anymore.
Right.
They don't want to get paired with form aids and whatnot. So we're going to take away ranked 5s because we can't have both at the same time. So I don't know if they made that as a concession or if that was related at all, but they did announce it at the same time. So for me, at least, it kind of felt like they were giving into that demand. And I felt like people should have given it a little bit more of a shot, but where it looks like we're going to eventually have both.
And a lot of people don't like change right off the bat, too.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of it. People have been playing this game for a long time. I mean, I've been playing this game for almost 5 years at this point. I would assume it's close to the 2 of you as well. That you could say that we're pretty set in our ways, and most people are probably set in their ways on how they remember, at least playing this game, what they expect out of what happens when they go into, especially a ranked setting, to play. So like, I can see why certain people would be upset, but I do want to say, hey, things have been this way for a long time. Give it a chance. I am going to defer to Riot because they've already done a good job so far on their visions for how League is going to improve in the future.
They got a good track record.
Yeah. I would hope that they would know what they're doing, and I respect their decision to go about making these changes. Anyway, it is awesome to be able to queue up as the role you want.
Yes.
And
that's new champion select. That's not dynamic queue, and a lot of people are getting that distinction mixed up. So, they didn't have to necessarily, but they did roll them both out at the same time, which made sense. It's the new season, so just shotgun, throw it in the air, see what happens, see what sticks. But the new champion select is great. I can put my 2 rolls in and whatnot and guarantee to get it. I like that they spread out the bans. I like, in theory, the fact that you have to now lock in stuff, but that's getting some taken used to, even for me. I actually was making fun of all the players that missed the ban and they got kicked, but I realized that until it happens to you, and it happened to me 3 times in the past week, and I'm like, crap.
I love being able to hover my champion, kind of having an idea of what was going on.
With the team comp?
Completely cool with the fact that I'm hovering it and I'm not locking it in because I want to use up as much time as possible because I want to go take a piss between games because I'm not going to be able to during the game. That is such a little nitpicky thing to be upset about.
Yeah.
And then I think you're not alone by
any
means.
You're not alone at all. It happened to me the other night.
Or to grab like a drink or anything like that, and you have to actively be in champion select for the new queue, or else there's going to be some
their
dodging
intention.
Happens. And you know what? That's cool that it offers more engagement, but league games for the most part, like, it's not like you're putting time in every time you play a game anyway. I did like being able to just, hey, I have this champion. I can buy this much time for myself to go do this for a minute so that I'm prepared for the game where I'm going to put all my focus in for the next X amount of time.
Yeah, 40 minutes. Of
that's the thing. You think about one game of League, I would say on average, at least for a solo queue, it's a solid 35 to 40 minutes. Easily. I mean, you're going to run into 20-minute surrenders or whatever every once in a while, but the majority of the games go half hour or longer.
I was even at my desk and I was just hovering between 2 champions.
Around?
I wasn't even fucking around. I was like mentally going through a bunch of different scenarios in my head. I was like, do I want to play this jungler or this one? I was swapping back and forth between 2, and then it was doing the countdown, and I was this close from like not hitting it. And I have been switching back and forth or not able to make up my mind because I'm an indecisive bastard and I've just missed the lock-in, or I've been like, you used to be able to even just click around and just have it choose for you, so to speak, or maybe just like left click at the last second. And it was just that mental habit of built up over 4 or 5 years, kind of hard to get out of. But I think once everyone gets used to it, you'll see less, because a lot of people were complaining about the queue time. So that's gotten better since I've seen less dodges. And
now, have you both done all of your placement games?
No.
I've done a combined of 10 placement games, but not on all the same accounts.
Okay. Because I was going to ask, for those of you who've done your placement games, which all of us have some games in right now, do you wish you had waited for the new champion select before doing any of them?
So I did I did 5 games on my placement, and I think that out of the 2 games that 2 games I didn't get my role, and neither did my duo queue partner, and we definitely could have had a lot better game, and people start bitching at each other, not me specifically, but just people start bitching at each other,
right,
like because they can't get mid, and it's just like as soon as I saw that in chat, I'm like, please, I can't wait for you to come back, and I'm like, I should probably wait to do the rest of my placements till then. But I mean, it's gonna be the same for both teams.
The first match I got into, I was duoing with Whale just for fun because he was like, yeah, let's play a game. So we got into a game, and they had just swapped out the new champ select for the old system for whatever reason. Pick whatever reason you want.
One of the various reasons it broke.
The first thing somebody said as soon as we got in when we were back in the old style champ select is, motherfuckers, this isn't the new champion select. Call your roles now. Which I was like, all right, at least people are on the same page about this.
Well, yeah, that's an improvement.
Yeah, I want to say it's the reverberating echoes of people already starting to get used to the new system.
Yeah.
But
that guy had some issue in his past game though, and he's still tilted from it.
That's exactly it.
And this is going back to the dynamic queue, not necessarily the champ select, but I know that they've made improvements because when they first rolled it out, there was like a 5 made going up against a 3 and 2 made quite often, and that was happening about 80% of the time, where they wanted it to be closer to 95%. So they said they've pulled a couple levers in the back end, and
Is it up to 98% now, or is that what they said they ideally wanted it
it
at?
was around that. That was their goal, and it wasn't hitting that at all. So they said they were tuning it when they re-released it. So I don't know what the numbers are now. I could definitely
I saw
tell.
a tweet earlier today. I think it was 96% they're at.
Oh, that's
Okay,
awesome.
that's pretty good. That's
Really good. And I'm
Yep.
assuming even if it's not 5 versus 5, and maybe it's a 5 versus a 4 and a 1 or something like that.
So that's only 4 terribly memorable games out of 100.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, but going back to the ranked fives and versus now the dynamic queue with 5 people, we did do a couple games last night, a couple of us, and I noticed that second game, they were really coordinated. We just said,
extremely
hey,
so.
let's go play some dynamic queue as 5. We're friends. We're all pretty good players. You know, we know what we're doing. It'll be fun. And we went up against a team that had obviously had some strategies practiced together, like Anivia walls into Poppy.
We couldn't get a ward down.
Poppy stuns. You know, we weren't horribly outmatched like mechanics wise, but it was just very obvious that we were just completely winging it, and their team was, you know, had played together for a long period
It was
of
a
time.
really interesting comparison to the first game,
Yeah.
where it was kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Where the team we were playing against, might have been a group of 4 and a 1. I'm not 100% sure they were a group of 5, because at the end they were bitching at Janna.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but I mean they didn't really play very coordinated either.
It could have been. They could have been raging at that Janna for sitting
In-
mid and stealing XP.
In a way,
They could
that
have been. Or just trolling.
Yeah.
that still sounds a whole lot like the old ranked 5 system, just with a different name.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, you're
what
right.
it is, you should 96% of the time it is going to
Yep.
be just like the old rank 5 system. You know, but that was one thing I noticed when I did play ranked 5s is if you tried to start like a ranked 5s group with some friends and you did manage to create a team, invite everyone, have them accept, and then you know, have to add them to the team and all that stuff. And then if you wanted to ever use it again, the same 5 people had to be on, or you had to add the roster and subtract. And you could only do so many moves on the roster per week. It was like 2.
I remember that.
Yeah,
That was.
I remember
it got
that.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it was so you just create another, you know, team, and people threw away teams anyway. I remember like our old team for the collegiate scene, we would constantly make a team, do placements, and just delete the teams and remove it because we didn't want history to be tracked.
Right.
This was before like op.gg like got really popular and whatnot. So we would do that all the time, and that would just get your ranked 5s MMR up. So we'd be constantly playing against better people anyway. It wouldn't really affect much besides maybe the first placement to a game. But if we didn't place well, we'd just, you know, recreate a team and whatnot. So there's a lot of funky things with that, the ranked 5 system. They definitely needed to work on it, and I'm excited because when they do bring it back, I'm sure it'll be good. I will miss it a little bit for this season, but dynamic queue is going to make up a whole lot for me. I'm going to end up playing a lot more ranked games than I otherwise would.
I do miss that rating that only belonged to your team, because it was kind of a goal that your team was working towards, group goal. And with dynamic queue, even though you can still play together, you each have your own individual rating, and which can be skewed based on your own personal time, based on playing solo or duo or whatever.
Yeah. That I think
But,
that
you know,
yeah, having
small
that
thing.
yeah, having that is gonna be missed, I think. And maybe I'm just thinking about this now. There'd be some times where you wouldn't mind playing ranked 5s with some friends, but you wouldn't want, even if you could, you wouldn't want to necessarily do dynamic because then you might rage at them, and you might not as much if it's in ranked 5s, or if they, you know, you feel like they're not as good players as you. So I don't know, but overall, the new champ select's badass. The new dynamic queue, I feel like people need to give it a little bit of shot, and it's going to be really badass. And I'm really excited for this season more so than I have been. You know, I like I said, I'm a very social gamer, so I feel like that's going to help me a lot. And you know,
I think the new champion select also kind of promotes more
teamwork.
communication. For one, that hovering thing at the start, so you can comment on people's picks and say, hey, we can build a comp around this.
Yeah, I think-
2 is also the ban phase, because you have 3 separate people banning, so you can kind of coordinate your bans that way.
Get
All right,
people
who
talking.
are you going to ban?
Yeah.
Should ban this guy first? That kind of stuff. That might be just wishful thinking, or
I think that's a
Solo
little wishful,
queue,
but,
but,
no, it could be. You know,
but the
like,
potential's there.
well, at the very least, there's nonverbal communication in that. Oh, our first pick
That
top
too.
laner wants to play Mundo. I won't ban him because he intends to play it. I really like that hover. I guess we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I really do like the hover. I know that was in another MOBA. I know that was in Heroes of the Storm, and you didn't even have roles in that game pre-selected.
the
So I think
hover-
it helps a lot.
The hover's great just because it's the people who would have been silent before.
Yeah.
who would not have said anything. And we all know those people who wait until last pick to be like, fuck
Yeah.
it. We need a tank, but I'm going to go Master Yi jungle.
Yeah, like the
Oh,
last
I hate that guy.
the last
Yeah.
pick Zed when you have all A and then you end up with an all AD team in solo queue is terrible.
Yeah, at least you have an idea beforehand. Okay, all these people want to play this. I wanted to play this, but I will change what I wanted to play in order to round out the team better.
Yeah, and we had I think an all AP team in my last game. I played a game on my plat account, and we had an all AP team because our AD carry was going like Corky, and we had Elise and Victor and I think Lysandra, and it was just going to be and then the Corky the AD carry switched over to a Caitlyn, and it makes a big difference. That type of just nonverbal communication, kind of forcing people that don't like talking a lot to at least say, hey, this is probably what I want to go, guys. I don't know.
I don't hope for anything. So I'm gonna asshole.
Every time I hear this brought up, or at least in some of the social media aspects, people just like, oh, they're gonna ban my one of my teammates is gonna ban my champion because they see me hovering something non-meta. I haven't seen that happen once, but
I haven't either. And
Neither have I. I could see that happening in bronze. I think there's a lot of trolls there. And I only bring that up because I'm leveling a new account.
That's
and
one of
see
the-
a lot of weird picks, and I see a lot of people freak out at those weird picks. Like, OMG, you're picking that guy. That guy's no good. The pros don't play that champion. Why do you pick him? I could see that happening.
I can, but at the same time, that person that would do that is probably going to be toxic no matter what you do.
Yes,
and I don't
right.
think
it's not a reason to change
It's the
dynamics
same.
of
It's the same
champions.
thing. Like people said, oh, you can't have a character like Tom where you control your teammates by eating them, and they, you can't base the entire game around the lowest common denominator.
I was about to say, you can definitely do that with that champion. And we've all been in games probably where somebody does it not even on purpose when they do it. But most of the people don't do it. And they're actively not trying to fuck you over.
Yeah, it just
So-
any type of feature. People, the first thing is like, how can this be abused? And
Yeah. They go into it thinking negatively.
And if you're gonna pick something off meta like that, that's really off the wall, like just ask your team. Just say, hey, I'm really good at this. I know Teemo Top's not really popular right now, but I have a 55% win rate on him.
But I can make it work.
But I can make it work, guys. And I find if you take that approach, like 95% of the time, people are okay with it. And the people
And it usually does work out.
yeah, no, I
yeah.
mean just talk to your team, guys. No, there's gonna be that one asshole all the time. We all have been there before, and there's nothing you can do about him. He's gonna be an asshole no matter what. This is the guy that's typing GG at 5 minutes because someone died to a gank.
He's the Malphite in my game that left because he sucked and he gave his enemy top laner a double kill after his jungler died. And then I still won the game in a 4v5 because fuck that Malphite. Don't even need him.
You were so happy about that the other
He
day.
was
Oh, man.
he was
That
just
felt
role
great.
playing as a rock.
Yeah.
That's right. He was very good at it too.
All right. Is there anything else with champion select? I'm forgetting what else they changed or dynamic queue that we wanted to touch on. I think
I think it'll get more polished as time goes on, which is probably needed.
looks like they're
'cause it
already
was-
polishing up the numbers a little bit closer. It looks like they're getting closer. Like they've jumped on this thing, they took it down, then they fixed a bunch of things that they needed to fix. They're taking it pretty seriously. And I think the other thing is just the player base needs to get used to it, and that'll improve queue times. And then the new champ
Well,
select.
and hey, the other thing I want to say about that whole thing, and I was thinking about this the other day. If anything, all this does is put it. If you are playing with the new champion select and you get to choose your role, all this means is that now, if you do really, really bad, you don't have any excuses for not being able to play the champion or the role. Like
That's
this puts all like throw the excuses away because like there aren't any. Like it's just not happening. It isn't that, oh, if I would have played X lane, I would have done better. It's like, no, you chose to go in as this. You had the ability to pick one of two spots total that you would like to play over other people. You had your role, you had your lane, you had whatever you wanted to do. You're a part of the reason why you didn't win.
Yeah.
If you're bad, prepare to feel bad.
Yeah, yeah. Like this, it takes all the onus off of you being able to blame others for not getting to play what you felt like playing.
And hopefully it leads to less imbalanced matches or less like completely one-sided matches because you have 4 jungler mains on a team, or you have no lanes that win. They're one, get all your solo lanes get 1v1 killed at level 1. So hopefully this, if you're going into this, you're like, I'm going to be at my peak of my game, but so is my opponents. We're both going to be around the same MMR and everything, but I'm not going to be
it raises the whole bar a little bit.
Yeah, because I mean, as a jungle main, I mean, if I knew that the other person on the other team wasn't a jungle main, I'd just go fucking invade them and kill them at the red buff or something like that. And you won't be able to do that. The other team as well as your team is all going to be at their best or second best role. In hypothetically, people aren't choosing mid just because they want to get their primary more. There's all this nonsense people are talking about, but yeah, I feel like it'll lead to more balanced matches and less
more competitive matches.
I'm trying to think of the word.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's going to be less up and down. It's going to be, I can't think of the word, but you guys know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're saying. I also can't think of the word. I want to say variance, but
yeah, I want to see something with a V, but well, all right. Do we want to talk about like a couple champions that are really strong right now? And
Go for it.
Graves.
Great.
I think we were talking about this before we went on.
Yeah, we brought this up. I wasn't I hadn't seen Graves at all. Let's go back a month. I hadn't seen Graves at all. I don't think really that much changed around Graves to make him go from the point where people forgot how good he was to just somebody picking up and remembering how good he was. But
not
this
in the
is
kit.
Yeah, this is not. Yeah, at least not.
It's
in the
how
kit.
they played him and his items though. But go on.
This is it went from nobody knowing what was going on with Graves to within like 2 days, Graves being pick or ban and now is the highest win rate champion in 3 roles. And I feel like not a word was said by anybody, and everybody just keeps banning him and sort of not wanting to talk about stuff.
The first time I saw him, I think, was in the LCK. So I was watching some games and I saw it and I was very confused. And then I looked it up on pro builds. I'm like, who's doing this? And I saw a bunch of I saw a bunch of people doing it. I'm like, wait, what? And in the jungle, what?
Yeah.
So then I went into a game and I tried it out first time. I had never even played New Graves at all since the rework, since they changed his kit where you have to reload and everything. And then immediately I saw why it was overpowered. You can clear the whole jungle without using a single potion and no leash and be at 80% health.
Be a terror
as an 80 carry. Like that was why 80 carries didn't jungles, because you couldn't survive the first couple clears, and he can without using a single potion. So. That's really strong, and his burst is ridiculous. If you can get up close to people and you hit multiple people, or you hit a Q against the wall, it does both parts of the damage immediately. And then if you hit with multiple pellets from your shotgun, it does a huge burst of damage. So you could come out from the jungle and get a red buff proc and just burst the crap out of someone if your laner has CC.
So is it a combination of AoE damage that lets you clear those jungle waves really quickly and keep your HP high?
And it knocks back any non-champions. So you can kite it back all day. You should only take a couple of autos, max like 3 from the red buff or blue buff if you're doing it right. Some of the other minions, it hits the first minion there, so it's harder to kite, like the Krugs, and you AoE the raptors down so quickly because it's all little ones that you barely take any damage from that as well. But yeah, it's that ability to kite, and you knock them back at every auto attack, and then just you have so much burst because you can pin them against the wall because they're not moving or anything. So really safe clear, really good itemization coming out of the jungle.
Power damage was bonkers.
Yeah, and you can build him almost like a bruiser. Usually I've been going Swifty Boots, the warrior enchant, and I've been kind of
Yomu's is standard.
Yeah, Ghost Blade, because they reworked it. It doesn't necessarily have the crit, which you don't seem to really see him build a lot of. So you go that into like a Maw and the Sterix Gauge. And
I've heard of that as well.
You get those two. I mean, you get low life. You just say all in a bunch of people. Just continue to fight to the death. You take at least 3 more with you. And then his QR combo. I mean, I think the turning point for me is when I saw that was I hit the front page of Reddit. Was I'm a cutie pie one-shotting the enemy 80 carry in a bush without even using a single auto. It just QR'd because he
So
walked
ridiculous.
into
So ridiculous.
and then everyone started saying, "Well, that's just broken. Let me play it, or let me ban
Yeah.
it." So I mean, definitely first pick must ban. He's also. I mean, I think some of the statistics show that he has the highest win rate on 3 different roles: AD carry, jungle, and top lane, which
And
is bonkers.
half the time that he's picked right now is 49% of the time he's picked right now it's out of the jungle too. So like, again,
And what's the next highest pick rate? Is that top lane?
it's actually AD carry at 32%.
I don't believe it.
And
I
top
don't
lane's
believe it.
15%.
I tried him top lane against the Nasus, and I almost killed the Nasus level 2, and I had him under his tower the entire game.
I can
Are you
see
running,
the top lane. I can see the jungle.
Are you running
It's just
Thunderlords
that-
on him?
Yes.
All right, I was about to say I see all of these builds with Thunderlords, and that seems
I
like
I
a
didn't
way
even
to go.
know what everyone else was running, but that just made sense
Thunderlords.
to me. Yeah.
Sure.
When all
I mean-
else fails, go Thunderlord.
I mean, Thunderlords are
Oh,
strong
until
right
the patch,
now,
maybe.
and you're gonna get you're gonna get an instant proc from Thunderlords anyway. So I mean, he's a burst champion. Giving him sustained damage isn't really gonna help him much. Maybe you can go Wind Speakers or something trolly because you're gonna get the proc off of it. You're gonna burst someone down. But I mean, Thunderlords just gives
Strong
you.
leader surge.
Is that what I say?
The movement speed.
Yeah, Storm Raider
Wind
Surge.
speakers is the support one for
That-
healing.
you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
want to
yeah.
go that one, guys.
I don't think.
Yeah, I was thinking. I think they had some patch notes changed to both of them. That's why I have that stuck in my head. But yeah, you go Thunderlords, you go 12-18, and you clear camps, no problem. And then I've just been running flat AD on them. I haven't been running attack speed. I don't know what everyone else is doing, but I don't see much reason because you have to reload and shit anyway.
I don't see much attack speed in builds. I see in one LCS game RF legendary build to rapid fire cannon, but that's the only evidence I have for an attack speed item.
That's the only attack speed item I'm seeing out of all of these matches. A rapid fire cannon, either
Probably because you're up 10 kills anyway.
it's 5th or 6th buy.
Yeah, I've seen Essence Reaver here and there, but mostly, like I said, like those Bruiser 80 items.
Mm-hmm.
I
A
haven't.
lot of
I-
Sterix.
Yeah,
Of Sterix.
I haven't gotten past my Sterix on any of my builds just because the game's over by the 3rd item.
I
So-
need to see an example of a Graves properly played in the bot lane
In the
because
bot
I don't
lane?
know in the bot lane because
Why
I don't know
why
how
don't
he
you
does
just learn how to play it? Like,
No.
Good
Okay, so here's how it goes, right? Graves has
Yeah.
got one strategy now. New Graves has got one strategy.
blow
And
them to hell.
That's push them into the turret
Yeah.
until you're 6, and then wait for your support to catch them, and then blow them to hell.
Gotcha.
That's no different from old Graves. Old Graves
Right.
could do that too.
That's
but
it.
he also
That
jumps
is
to
old
freeze the
Graves.
lane.
And that's the kit. That's what they wanted him to be. They wanted him to be more of an all-in AD carry,
Right.
a burst marksman sort of. I mean, that's what
Now,
he was.
is-
He
is
used to
he
never.
is he too good at that?
I think he's a little
It
bit too good at
seems
that.
like he's too good at it.
Yeah, it seems like he's a little bit too good at it. And I mean, the fact that he has that high of a win rate at 3 different roles shows that it isn't necessarily a problem with him just jungling, but just him in general. I don't know.
I've seen Graves 3 times.
Yes.
Because
he's banned?
3 actual
Or-
time. Well, I want to say in the past 2 months I've seen him 3 times, and it
Oh,
went from
before
nobody playing him to he started being banned due to people realizing he was amazing. The only game, like all the games that I've seen him in, he crushed everybody.
Yeah, and I don't know where that came from other than maybe someone just trying it out and realizing how strong it could be. Because I don't think they directly buffed or changed any
didn't.
part of his kit,
His kit
since
hasn't
his
been
rework.
changed.
Yeah.
The itemization changed a little bit. I don't think his itemization changed per se. I really
Just in
think
his other roles.
Yeah,
Just in
I
jungle.
would. I think it's just one of those. We all forgot about him.
Mhm.
It turned into, hey, they changed him up. Some people were on that train because when on immediate on Graves changes release, people were playing a lot of him and they were
Yeah.
doing really well on him then. Like it,
Yeah.
they were
And he did get
doing-
nerfed from that.
Yeah,
And I think
he-
that's why people stopped
people-
playing him because they were afraid of the nerf.
they apparently thought that he was undertuned, and it
Right.
was clear the entire time, at least in now with hindsight being.
Well, I
2020,
think
that he's
people were
amazing.
still unused to his kit, but
Mhm.
because
And
his
the reload
damage was so
mechanic.
high when he first came out, they could make do with that. Like,
Well-
I can play differently, but I can
Yeah.
also kill this guy
Yeah.
with minimal effort.
guess-
so
I
it's
guess
a
it's
fair
different.
trade-off. And then he
It's
gets
different
nerfed, and
too.
you have to work harder to get your damage off now. And they kind of got scared off from that.
It's different when there's something new that comes out and you don't know how to play it, and then there is that barrier to be like, okay, I don't know exactly what to do, and I do know exactly what to do on these other champions, and then somebody rolls in, it's like, I know exactly what to do, and I experimented with it, and I'm
Take
at the
notes,
forefront
bitch.
with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
look at what I'm doing and go crazy. And
I definitely felt like the reload mechanic was a little clunky when I first used it. Like, and then I just dismissed Graves, and then all of a sudden I started seeing him play. And I don't play AD carry that much to begin with, and I never thought to play in jungle. Then I saw him in the jungle, and I was like, let me try this out one more time. And then I got used to it a little bit, and I was like, holy shit, this is worth getting used to. It took me a couple of games to get used to like having to reload for an auto attack, but you know, once if it's worth learning, people will learn it, and then all of a sudden it's played and banned all the time. I mean, it's the point where he's definitely gonna get nerfed, and you're not probably gonna see him in 90% of the games because he's gonna be banned every game until then.
So outside of laning phase, once you're starting to group up and take objectives, how do you play him? Do you play him closer to the front line, more of a bruiser?
I found that if you try to do that, and I was really cocky coming out of laning phase because I was like 3-0 against the Nasus. I was up by 70 CS or something like that, and I was bullying him and the enemy jungler out of lane. If you try to play that and you get CC'd, you're still gonna blow up, and maybe a little bit less once you get the Maw and Sterix, but you still have to play him. You can play him kind of more like a bruiser, not as fragile as an AD carry, but you still have to watch out a little bit. You can't dive. You want to wait for someone to really get low, and then you could finish in and dash in and burst them off, and then smoke screen, or just create a disruption in general.
That was one of the issues I had when I first tried to relearn him.
He's better in small skirmishes because he is short range for an AD carry. He still is, and you still have to get close and personal. So if you can poke people down or have your teammates get them low, and then you can go in and do your job, which is the cleanup duty.
Yeah, the position aspect of him seems really on a fine edge because you have to be close enough in order to get in there for cleanup duty or taking advantage of the opportunity. But if you're too far back, like I might normally be in an AD carry, then by the time I actually get into the fight, it's already over because his range is a lot lower.
Yeah, unless you see someone against a wall that's half health, then you can QR them against the wall, blow them up, and even if you maybe take two people out with you. I don't know. But
I find it interesting, super, super interesting, that there are a lot of naysayers that AD carry junglers aren't going to be a thing. They're not going to be that great. They
shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, that they shouldn't be a thing because there's the purists, and I understand that. And then this works out with Graves and just with Adam's little visit to Riot and whatever else, like Kindred's numbers being pretty solid too. If you have a lot of games being put into her,
I think that's cool.
That is cool, and it's kind of a slap in the face to people who don't want to experiment. They're like, oh, that won't work because it hasn't worked. It's like, no, it's working. You might not see it, but there's clearly something to it for the people who actually want to put the time in to figure it out. Yeah, it might not be the best thing to do for your team, and it might be a selfish pick if other people
don't pick around it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. If everybody's not on board and you have a really, really squishy top laner, or you don't have a tank at all, and you just say, fuck it, I want to play Graves or Kindred, like that. Yeah, that is kind of scumbaggy if you're a later pick and you're in the jungle. But I guess nowadays everything's flipped on its head because if you early pick that out of the jungle, your teammate's kind of scumbaggy for not picking around your pick now.
Or
right?
they're gonna know because you're hovering it like you should be.
Yeah,
right?
That's the other thing too. You should be hovering it now, or at least you should be trying to explain to your teammates, hey, this is what I would like to do.
I don't think anyone's.
I just like to keep my options open.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to dedicate myself to one champion.
Hey, I'm open for more variability. Like you want to talk about purists. I am still a big fan of bruisers and tanks coming out of the jungle. I love that play style personally. I like seeing that, and I think that on average that's the best thing probably for those positions.
It's the most reliable.
That's exactly
even
it.
If you don't get farm, because you're going to get less farm in the jungle, and even if you don't get rolling, you'll still be useful to your team, and that was always the case.
It does feel real good when you're playing a carry out of the jungle and you just dominate, because it shouldn't necessarily happen because you don't get as much gold as other people. So like the fact that you did it, it's like, okay, you did really good that game. It makes you feel good. It sucks when you lose, but it makes you feel good. when you win.
And now we're gonna have. I mean, was it before they nerfed her a little bit? Quinn was being seen in the jungle a lot.
Yeah.
Kindred obviously was designed to be a jungler and an AD carry. So obviously, I think Quinn got nerfed a little bit after that, but we were seeing her a lot in the jungle at high elos, and so now we have Graves as well. I think it's interesting that before you would never see that, any type of AD carry in the jungle unless someone forgot to
you would
swap.
see very rare instances of like Twitch jungle back in season 3,
Twitch
but it was never
jungle.
real.
Yeah,
it was just a novelty people.
We saw
played.
jungle Ezreal once.
That happened.
Sure.
Season 2, season 3 in the LCS.
A season 2 Twitch jungle, before people realized, oh hey, you should buy pink boards, it was the same shenanigan shit that Shaco used to pull. That was really frustrating when it happened to you and you're sitting there slapping yourself in the face like, man, I knew that could happen.
How could this happen?
What am I doing? Like, now he has such an advantage and we're not in a good spot.
I ran into a Twitch jungle in one of my Smurf games, and I knew exactly what was coming. I was even told my team it was coming. Hey, he's gonna level 2 gank with red buff, because that's what Twitch jungle cheese has been going on for 4 years now.
Because they can't actually jungle. They have to kill you.
They can't do a full clear. They can't hit level 3. So I warned my
guess
team.
That's the difference between those old novelty ADC junglers and
they were a cheese
pick.
pick.
They can clear. Yeah.
They can clear. They can stay in the jungle for longer and sustain
with kiting mechanics and whatnot. So but you could play around that stuff, and it seemed like for a while they were trying to take ranged junglers out of the jungle because they kept on nerfing the aggro and the amount of times it would reset and the leash range and whatnot.
I actually really like the way it is right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to do some of those like Kale jungle stuff, which I used to like, but I find it's good now because at least my laners aren't like level 1 taking half my goddamn jungle. Because you don't get that same experience if you don't have smite anymore. So I think that was an improvement. So enough about Graves. Is there anything else you guys seeing tearing up solo queue?
I've still been seeing a lot of Trundle even with the changes, both in support and top lane. And there's been a lot of success I've seen. Typically, I see a lot of Trundles winning pretty well, especially with people still picking the tanks they are out of top. He's he's always been the great equalizer for tanks if people are running one tank on a team. So I don't know. I've seen a lot of success on Trundle.
Well, Santana was saying he likes him into Mundo.
Yep, that's a huge one. I love him. I love him into Mundo. Yeah. He's one of the few people, especially like when Mundo, as they. How Mundo's been recently. It's good. It was good to pick Trundle on him and just immediately take away a giant chunk of his health, and then
the tanker he gets, tanker you get.
That's exactly right. Okay, so he wants to go into your team and do whatever he feels like. You immediately ult, and then you're like, oh hey, I have your resistances, and now you're squishy. So
and I think that's
your health is just health.
That's probably why he's played more at support now as well, is because he could just kind of nullify your one big tank if you have one in the late game. And then in laning phase, you could all in there, He gets
tanky and he does a decent amount of damage if he can get to you. So
and he steals your carry's attack damage if you can get on him.
Yep.
Yeah.
The support Trundle we played against last night was also
fed like crazy on support Trundle the other day in a ranked game. So.
But the one we played against last night was also very good at zoning us out. That was kind of that was how their comp was based around. They had a Nivea, and with between the Nivea and the Trundle, we just couldn't get to them.
Yeah, and their Poppy had a lot of shit to work around to charge this into and stuff.
Yeah, they were a very good siege team,
and we did not have the tools to deal with it. We did not have super safe wave clear and whatnot.
No. Have either of you seen any Rise? Because I know he's 100% pick ban in the LCS.
Yeah, he's really strong in the pro scene, but
I
agree.
I don't see him at all in solo queue. In top lane, actually, I see mostly mega tanks, and they're doing very well. Like I
see a lot of Malphites if it's not banned.
Definitely a lot of Malphites.
A shit ton of Fioras, a decent amount of Gnar. And
those are all real. As much Gnar.
Jax when I'm on Smurfs.
I think Jax is just a terror against people who don't know what to do against Jax. That's what he's been for a while.
Exactly. He's a hyper carry in top
Yeah,
lane,
that's
and
exactly right. You can play him, and he gets innately tanky just from his passive. But like,
He was
due to
really
certain
good for that
changes,
like a brief amount of time with new Ginsos,
yeah,
but then they increased
everyone that
increased
could
the
use
price,
that was
and
real good.
yeah, that's true. No, they increased the price on that, and that puts his time from being God mode back just
right.
enough to the point where you can abuse Jax's lack of spike early for that to get him on the back foot a little bit. Not saying that if you can't stay even with somebody, eventually you're going to outscale the majority of champions in this game just because it's Jax. But he still seems like a nightmare at lower levels where people don't know how to deal with him. And then if they give him one kill, he ends up doing whatever he feels like. He's like, he is probably right now to lower elo what amazing Riven players were like to play against during Riven's heyday
Snowball.
at upper levels of Riven play, which was just okay. If you made any mistake at all, she was killing you anytime she wanted to for the next half hour.
Yeah, I feel like he has the burst that Riven that you're talking about used to have,
Yeah.
and the sustained damage that Jax always had.
Yeah.
A little bit less mobile, I guess, but still, he's a terror if he gets ahead. And
Then again, I don't see him at all in plat or higher.
Yeah.
No, not at all. So,
but in silver and gold, if you don't ban him, your team rages at you.
Yep.
So.
That's at least that's what I hear.
And if you do play against him, you can play Malphite, one of those popular picks you're talking about earlier, and just be a giant cock block the whole game.
Yep.
You don't even have to win the lane. You just follow him around, and wherever he goes, you just press E next to him.
Yep,
And
slow
he
his
can't
attack
attack.
speed.
He's like,
you end up
Malphite,
getting a
stop it.
frozen heart, ruining his day even more. I actually one
It's
of
really
the
depressing if you're Jax.
something you used to be able to do if you knew somebody was going to pick Jackson top. A lot of people are playing him out of the jungle right now too, which is interesting. But you end up seeing Jax out of top. You could pick Tiger Udyr into it and then just rush Frozen Heart, and you can duel him between Tiger stance and him not being able to auto attack you very quickly. Usually Jax gets a huge power spike at 6. It didn't matter because 3 Tiger procs and he was dead. It was great. And they think they can fight you because Jax is used to being able to turn fights around at 6. And like particularly at 6, it's like, hey, this is where I can be awesome, double attack a minion, and then just put your passive damage into them, and then W instantly for a trade win. And then it's just like, oh, he's gonna jump to you, eat it with turtle, and then immediately Tiger flip on him. And if he has to burn his next Q to run away, or you'll probably end up killing him.
I haven't tried that yet. I don't play a ton of top lane, but it sounds like I mean, Udyr's always been good at Tiger Udyr's been really good at trading.
He's really good at beating people that don't. It's a gimmicky sort of thing for him. If people don't know how to react to him and they don't respect Tiger early, you win out. But as soon as somebody plays back early and you can't take advantage of the fact that you have an ability that will take away a third of their health if he touches you with it, as long as you respect that till about level 5, you're fine. Because you're going to outscale Udyr in lane eventually.
Yeah.
So
I think one other strong champion we haven't touched on yet is Poppy,
Yeah.
who's also been playing in multiple roles and having a lot of success.
well, she's had a couple of bug issues too, right?
Well, they adjusted. There were quality of life things. I think if you would cast your Q immediately after doing heroic charge, it sometimes wouldn't go exactly where you wanted it to go, and I think they made that a little bit more fluid by keeping it where you meant it to go. So if you pressed E and then Q immediately while your E was still going off, it wouldn't go off where you wanted it to go. So I think they fixed that and smoothed that out a little bit. But yeah, I've seen her top jungle and support. I've seen our support and the team that I coach runs support Poppy a lot, and I do a queue with him, and he's just a first blood 1v1ing the 80 carry, getting a double kill on Poppy support. She's got a lot of burst, and she's got a lot of playmaking ability, and she can be the biggest fucking cock block in the world to jungler. I hate that. I hate playing against it because stop any dashes with your W, and then if she's post 6, just good luck trying to gank her. She'll just ult the 2 of you away, and then they'll 2v1 your carry. I love very, very strong, and it's kind of cool to see her back because I've been playing the game a long time, and she's been a troll pick for the longest time, or so hard to play well, and it's cool to see her back.
Yeah, they did a great job because she's completely how she plays is completely different from before. You still have the charge, but before it was all the ult your target, run through the enemy team, and then assassinate them and then get out of there. That was the only thing she could do.
Yeah, either that or ult the support Soraka that can do jack shit to you, and then no one else on the
Yeah.
enemy team could damage you for 4 seconds or whatever it was. And then her passive was even more broken. It was like if any time you're about to take more than 10% of your damage,
health,
it would be
it just
reduced by
negated it, yeah.
50%.
Yep.
It was
Very hard to kill her sometimes.
between that and her, I mean, I knew for the longest time between that and her ult, they were gonna have to completely remove or rework those entirely if they wanted to make her like a more balanced champion. Because that was they said those two. I think even Riot even said those two things are what made her impossible to balance. Because she was either going to be way too good, or just not useful at all. So she, I mean. Pre-Warrior, I mean, we're going way back, but pre-Warrior Poppy, if you try to play her in lane, she would go after like 1 or 2 spells, and that was a huge issue. But if you let her get late game, I mean, she was a terror. Now she's got a lot more utility, and she's got a lot more options in counterplay, so she's a lot healthier state right now.
Which is why she can have success in 3 different roles. It's because of all that utility she brings in different play styles. I mean, she can be played on a poke siege comp like we saw last night, where she keeps everyone else at bay, or she can be played as somebody that dives the back line and initiates. Yeah. You have to get creative in order to initiate, because it's not like she's got a one-button Malphite ult. She has to, set up her initiate to slam you against the wall, but she can do it.
I think that's a new mechanic though too, like just being able to stop dashes and whatnot. Besides other CC like Thresh Flay, but I mean, she could just stop everything in an area, and it kind of dicks over a lot of characters, especially newer characters, and everyone talks about mobility creep with every new character having more and more flashes or dashes.
Anti-mobility creep.
Yes, it's anti-mobility creep. That's so cool. I'm so glad they put that into the game on a character. And Poppy, nonetheless.
I would be interested to see if they end up adding more of those kind of abilities in the future on champions. That's like, okay, we found a way to start negating some of the passive power that's been falling into champs as they've been released over time. Now we have another lever to pull that's like, hey, now there's champions that say fuck you to those guys. It's pretty cool.
I'm scared we may enter a cold war of sorts from Middledy, where now you've got dashes, and the answer to dashes is Poppy, and then the answer to Poppy would be more teleports, and then they're going to come up with an answer to teleports.
Well, I've been playing Elise a lot, and she's been my go-to jungler for a long time now. I'm still finding a lot of success with her in jungle, and thankfully, her repel is not a dash, so it works against that and whatnot. Although her Q gets cock-blocked by it, but if we're talking about strong
that small little pounce gets
pretty sure, yeah, it's a dash. It's just
so I guess the same thing would happen to Udyr too with his bear stance.
Yeah,
because he does that little.
It's a little
reach.
Slight lunge,
yeah. I mean, Elise's is more, it's an ability, whereas Udyr is an auto attack modifier, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So Elise is more like a Jax Q, or so I'm pretty sure that gets interrupted, but at least I've been caught by that.
I never thought about it.
Yeah. But I've still been finding really good, especially really good games, with her if you know how to play her. And obviously she's always going to be a strong LCS pick, and just because of her early game pressure.
Early game power is so strong.
But I've been having a lot of
honestly
fun.
that's goes. She's going to be a strong solo queue pick because early game pressure is so strong.
She's either going to be strong or useless. Just because of her kit, she's got so much % health, and then the utility.
Unless they end up reworking some portion of it, she's either going to be a feast or famine champion.
Yeah,
either always going to be near the top or is just going to not be played at all, and we've seen that time and again.
Yeah, and I can and I have gone into just Nidalee for an hour on the Champion Select podcast, but I just wanted to bring her up real quick because I've been finding real good success with her, and then just invading the enemy jungler and getting them low, getting a kill. But she does suffer from the same thing she always has, which is kind of like the Lee syndrome. It's just like you can get ahead early, and you have really good strong early game, but your late game kind of falls off. And
so if you don't just dominate out to the point where your team is able to take the map for you at a certain point, all the work you did means very little when they outscale.
Yeah, if you just stack up kills and you don't get objectives and don't actually advance the game, you could find yourself in a whole lot of trouble, and you just start blaming your teammates when you realize, I could have probably played this better. I probably could have turned this double kill into an objective,
Honestly, you could flip that entire conversation into any number of champions that if you have if you do really, really well on a champion and your kill count's really big, but you still have managed to lose, then you weren't turning kills into actual game advantages anywhere.
Yeah, you get punished for it more on early game champions like her and Lee Sin and stuff like that, I think. But that's 100% true. That's true for any ELO as well. What is there any lanes we didn't hit? We did touch on top. We touched on jungle, Graves and.
Is there anything people are seeing crazy out of support other than, again, seeing a lot of Trundle?
I've seen Trundle and Poppy, which is crazy, but
Janna is still at the top. I would arguably say she's the most consistent support ever.
Bard's a strong early pick, and I mean, he's a strong support.
I think we've mentioned before how Bard is the new Thresh.
Kind of, yeah.
You can pick him in almost every game, and he's got the utility to make it work.
He's got a little bit of everything in his kit. CC,
if you're good at him,
yeah,
like you can still ruin things.
Ezreal, I don't know if he's been on the rise lately. Everyone's doing the blue build Ezreal, and that's strong.
I've seen that a lot.
That's a top tier pick in just about every high elo game. I know the team that I coach runs him a lot. You know,
it looks like he's ranked 3rd right now. I've seen a bunch of Corki. I've been playing a bunch of
Corki. Corki's fun, man. I played him in a ranked game in mid lane, and I had really good success with him, and I had never really played him post 3 work, so the first time I ever Valkyrie'd, I think we ended up turning a fight for a triple kill. So
Was that with the package?
That was with the package.
Oh, man.
I was doing mid lane Corki, and there was a fight going on bottom with the jungler, and I went half the river away, knocked 3 of them into a wall, and then we just blew them up. But yeah, Corki's real strong. Ezreal's real strong. I've seen some good Caitlyn's lately.
You have to show me these good Caitlyn's. It's another myth to me, like the good bot Graves.
Never seen it.
Haven't seen it.
Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does.
A lot of Victor lately I've seen in my games. But I mean, mid lane's kind of a toss-up. I mean, I haven't seen anything dominate a whole lot.
I think mid lane is pretty open for the most part.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and that's good. That's good.
But like you said, Corki and Ezreal are being played there too, and then supposedly there's the Rise.
Yeah.
But again, we haven't seen Rise outside of LCS.
I've seen Rise like maybe once in the top lane, but yeah, it's cool that since we're mentioning these 80 carries in the mid lane that we're seeing like almost every comp, or was it 80% of the games in the LCS in the different regions are having 280 carries per team, either from the jungle or from mid lane and bot lane and whatnot. That's pretty cool. At least one of the teams. So you're either seeing like a Corki and Ezreal in mid and bot, or you're seeing a Graves in the jungle along with another 80 carry and whatnot. But then you have to run like a strong tank with that if you were to have that, a really strong tank and maybe a tanky support. And yeah. But yeah, that's all the trends that I've been kind of seeing.
Yeah.
And whatnot and ranked, and
I think that about covers it for me.
Sure.
No, I mean,
I think we covered everything.
Yeah, we hit on
any other points?
A bunch of stuff. Everything that I've seen in the past week, at least, we've definitely slapped down this episode.
Yeah. So if there's,
which is good.
Yeah.
I was hoping to do a state of the meta episode for a while now.
Yeah, and I feel like we kind of touched on. I wanted to make sure we touched on just about every role, and I'm glad that we did that. And we kind of touched on the OPs, so that if our listeners want to try to abuse those before they get nerfed in the next patch or two.
Honestly, a lot of things are kind of looks like it's already in the pipe to be.
Graves nerfs on the horizon, so play them now.
Yeah. So if you want to, I would honestly even say at this point, like, you might want to get into them now, but I wouldn't. If you haven't been playing a champion like that, don't go too crazy right now trying to learn them, because you're not going to be able to take advantage of it necessarily if it does get wrecked because of whatever reason. So I don't know.
I agree, and don't try to like pick it just because it's available if you don't know how to play it.
Play what you're good at. Yeah. That's all it is. Like,
that's the secret to climbing. That's always been the
secret
to climbing.
Play what you know.
Play what you know what you play, and whatnot. So So yeah, but I'm glad. And we the patch notes officially came out today, and
So
our
the episode was released.
episode was released. So if you're watching this live and you haven't heard it yet, go ahead and check that out. The patch notes are going live as of, I think it's 5 a.m. Eastern over here, 2 p.m. a.m. So like by tomorrow you'll have the patch ups, and those patch notes we cover. We go in deep. Us three, Pwn and whatnot. We go deep into all those patch notes and all those changes. So I think that we didn't touch upon any OPs that are getting really nerfed to the ground, besides maybe Mundo a little bit, but I think he'll still be a moderate pick. So yeah,
He'll still be solid. He just won't be a goddamn nightmare.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to those, go ahead and check that out and download and listen to that and give that a listen, and then jump into your ranked games and get some free love, boys and ladies and gentlemen. All right, I think that's it for us here at the Trinity Force Podcast, episode 330, brought to you by Punch.
Yeah, I guess.
And
You're
Chira.
actually here.
And me, Tallanasty.
So catch us next week. We love you guys. Thank you very much.
Hugs and kisses. Mwah, mwah.
Peace.
See you guys.